Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM News with me, Mapito CBD. Now in our first story, President Akufo-Addo has banned weddings, concerts and parties until further notice. In his 23rd address to the nation on measures government is taking to curb the spread of the novel coronavirus, he said funerals should have private burials with not more than 25 people. He said the situation in the country is getting dire as the daily infection has moved from 200 to 700 cases.
Restrictions on our daily routines helped in reducing the prevalence of the pandemic in the country. And government has been left with no option but to reintroduce some of these restrictions in order to help save the situation. I know these measures in the recent past were unpleasant, but over a period they resulted in a favorable situation for the country. We have to return to them. So, fellow Ghanaians, until further notice, funerals, weddings, concerts, theatrical performances and parties are banned. Private burials with no more than 25 people can take place with the enforcement of the social distancing, hygiene and mask-wearing protocols. Beaches, nightclubs, cinemas and pubs continue to be shut. Our borders by land and sea remain closed. All workplaces, public and private, must employ a shift system for workers, in addition to the use of virtual platforms for business or work. Conferences and workshops can take place with all the appropriate protocols. However, I encourage the use of virtual platforms for such engagements. Restaurants should provide takeaway services and should, as much as possible, avoid seated services. The National Sports Authority and the Ghana Football Association should ensure compliance with the 25% capacity rule in our stadia, with spectators respecting the social distancing rule and wearing of masks.
President Akufo-Addo also said beaches, nightclubs, cinemas and pubs continue to be shut. Also, the country's borders by land and sea remain closed. Now, some churches here in Accra have stepped up the education of members about the COVID-19 protocols due to the rising cases. Joseph Akable was at the Gospel Ambassadors Church Solution Center at La Paz, where church members were being urged to wear the mask always.
On arrival at the Gospel Ambassadors Church Solution Center at La Paz, I'm taken through the safety measures in place.
I'm Pastor Kennedy Bentum Jr., and then we are the Gospel Ambassadors Church Solution Center. So just as you see here, we have our Veronica bucket. So when members come to church, the first thing you have to do is to get here, and then you would have the liquid soap. So you would put the liquid soap like you see him doing, and then you would have to open the tap, and then you wash your hands thoroughly. I mean, we are really particular about that. So you have to wash your hands thoroughly, because we know that the virus, when you have running water and then the liquid soap, it's able to get off your hand if any. So right after, you would use the tissue papers, and then you would just wipe your hand very well. So as you can see, he's done that. So right after, when you are done with this, please, we would have to move to a different section. So if we could go there. So right after they are done, they come to this place. You come to this place actually, and then you would have to write your name, because we need the information. So you write your name. The church is segregated in different churches, you understand? So you write your name, you put a church there, your contact, and then you would sign for contact tracing, should there be any case. Yes, so that's what you see him doing. And then the protocol team will take your temperature. They'll take your temperature to be sure that you are within the right temperature, and then they will show it to you, so you know. So right after, we make our way into the church auditorium, and then as you can see, it's spaced out as it's supposed to be. So when you get inside, we have a sanitizer right here as well. So right after, you just put your hand under, and then you then sanitize, and then the ushers will lead you to sit as you're supposed to sit, and then that's how it is. So we are not crowded, as you can see. It's spaced appropriately, and then service begins, and everyone is in their nose masks.
In the course of service, the presiding pastor, Reverend Kennedy Bentum, advises his congregation about COVID-19.
Please wear your mask. And we've always said that wearing the mask is putting the mask on top of your nose. And then the kata on him so.
He tells me the church is worried about the rising cases. He insists Christians must abide by the protocols and not simply say God will protect them.
You pray and then go and stand in the middle of the road when the car is coming and say whether the car will hit you or not, because God is protecting you. So I think it's ignorance that makes people to behave this way. Faith without action is dead. So you have the faith that God is protecting you, but what action are you taking as far as God protecting you?
Other church members have been sharing their views on the measures in place.
I think coming here from the onset, even during the COVID period, I've been coming here. The first one that there was a lockdown, I used to come here. And I think if I follow the protocol and I follow what we have to do as a church member or as a citizen of this country, there's no need for me to be afraid.
So I prefer coming to church than going to the market, because I feel the church is more safer, because here when you come you have to wash your hands, check your temperature and write your name, and with the distance to everything is intact. Yeah.
Still on COVID-related matters, frontline health workers in the Ashanti region have served notice they will lay down their tools over unpaid allowances. The over 200 agreed frontline health workers attend to severe and critically ill COVID-19 cases at the Umkranza Teaching Hospital. They're unhappy with what they say are disparities and discrimination in the payment of insurance packages promised them by government. Ohoming Teria, who's been investigating the concerns of the health workers, has more in the following reports.
Umkranza Teaching Hospital takes care of pediatric and critically ill adult COVID-19 cases. As at January 26, 2021, at least 251 positive cases, representing 48.9% of samples taken, have been treated at the facility. But taking care of COVID-19 positive cases comes at a cost to medical staff. They risk their own lives.
In fact, the team that manage COVID cases at Umkranza are very, very, very efficient. They work diligently to be able to care for the patients well.
The government in April 2020 promised to pay 50% of basic salary of frontline health workers. It also announced insurance package for medical staff who contract COVID-19 in the line of duty. But the supposed beneficiaries say they are yet to benefit, especially from the insurance. According to them, some administrative staff who are not frontline personnel but lately contracted COVID-19 have been paid the insurance ahead of them. The aggrieved health staff have threatened to lay down their tools.
Those who manage the cases, nurses, doctors, contracted it as early as May, and their names were sent to the ministry for payment. Those people have not received it. And people who are not clinical staff, but staff of Umkranza, but they don't manage patients, like an accountant or a health service administrator. I know two people who are not clinical managers, but contracted it in August, and they've been paid. There's a growing disenchantment and serious uproar. People are not happy. Now, if you are not careful, most of our people are going to lay down their tools.
The strike could be widespread as colleagues from other hospitals in Ashanti and other regions have threatened similar actions.
The danger is the first week of February. If we are not being careful, before we realize there will be a day that you go at the treatment center and there will be nobody there. Other hospitals are also trying to gather their tools and then decide that, oh, this is our working tools. We are not going to work until we receive our monies.
The Ghana Medical Association is worried about the situation. Ashanti Regional Chairman Dr. Pakwesi Bedu says some members are owed about 3-month arrears of the 50% basic salary promised them, plus the insurance packages.
The last check, people were complaining that for 3 months, they owe them an arrest of 3 months. And this is from a platform of doctors. We have over 2,000 doctors on that platform. That's where the complaint was coming from. The Ghanaian Medical Association national leadership have taken it up. We use this medium to urge our Minister of Health designate and our Finance Minister designate that if they've really paid health workers this amount, they should let us know the names, the facilities.
Management of
Authorities at the Umkranza Shalom Special School for the Mentally Handicapped are calling on stakeholders and the general public to support the school as it struggles to operate during COVID-19 season. The school, which is the only institution for children with special needs in the Bono East region, lacks adequate infrastructure to enable the school adhere to the safety COVID-19 protocols. Anna Sabit has more in the following reports.
Going around, and with schools reopening by authorities this week, we are here at the Umkranza Shalom Special School. This is the only special school for the mentally retarded people here in the Bono East region. How are they coping with the COVID-19 situation? What are the kind of protocols that they are able to observe here? Unlike what we saw in other schools, these pupils here are ignoring almost all the COVID-19 protocols. Headmaster of the school, Mr. Frank Osu Amwakon, shares with us some of the challenges school authorities are facing with regards to the adherence of the COVID-19 safety protocols.
Well, these are our children, really, they've all not reported, but we have a big problem in the sense that they don't, whatever you tell them, they also think differently. I mean, wearing of the nose mask is going to be a big problem to us in the sense that, so we have decided, the staff have decided to, to wear the nose masks, and we will try to always force them to wear it, but it's not going to be easy for us because whatever you tell them, they can't put this thing on their nose for long.
Acting Regional Director of Education, Madame Ifua Amwa, who paid a visit to the school to monitor the situation, expressed worry but called on all to extend support to the school.
In this COVID season, I believe that all stakeholders should concentrate on our special needs schools, our inclusive schools, so that we give them the needed support to be able to observe the COVID-19 protocols. After all, they have a challenge. And so if we do not help them to get the things right, the COVID-19 protocols right, without our support, they would all fall sick and we will lose them. But who knows what will come out of these ones? So we believe that, well, if all stakeholders give attention to our special schools, to our inclusive schools, all will be well with them too.
Bono East Regional Minister, Mr. Kofi Amwakohene, promised to improve the plight of the school and called on all stakeholders to help alleviate their difficulties.
I've already launched an appeal for the public to start helping the special school, only one in the whole region, Bono East, from now, for any assistance that would be. And I think it's something that we need to respond to and as immediately as possible.
As it stands, school authorities would have to do extra work in order to instill the adherence to the COVID protocols. Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit.
As COVID-19 continues to ravage the world, here in Ghana and some tropical regions in the world, a group of infectious diseases is quietly killing thousands and rendering populations unproductive. These are the neglected tropical diseases, painful, dehumanizing, and deadly. Although medications for neglected tropical diseases in Ghana are not expensive, most Ghanaians living in deprived communities continue to suffer till they are killed by them. The Ghana Health Service is asking Ghanaians to face NTDs and end it. Judith Awachotando has more in this report.
Living with leprosy can be very depressing. Being one of the neglected tropical diseases, ignorance about it has pushed many victims to suffer stigma and humiliation in society. Mrs. Mary Amuzu had to go through such a painful experience when leprosy started eating up her skin layer after layer. Mary says her days with leprosy were the worst moments in her life.
Oh, it's a lot of so difficult things because if you are going somewhere, even your children, they don't want to near you because how you are now, they don't want to be in that problem, so they don't want to near you. So it's too difficult for me. Some time before I got treatment from Ankafor.
Mary was lucky to have received treatment and subsequently got cured of the disease. Nonetheless, many in her condition would rather seek help at churches or from herbalists. On the World Day for Neglected Tropical Diseases, the ambassador for NTD, Mrs. Joyce Aye, explains ignorance is a major problem for people infected with such diseases.
People get some diseases because of ignorance or because of resources. In fact, ignorance is the basic problem. Because if you're going through something and you think that it is the witch in the next village or the witch in your village who is causing the problems, then you won't even seek attention.
Judith Awachotando with that report. We can all help contain this deadly virus by continuing to practice social distancing, washing our hands under running water or soap, avoid shaking hands and hugging the next person, and always wear your mask as soon as you leave the house. COVID-19 is real. My name is Mapito Sibidi. That's it for the AM News, but the AM Show continues. Enjoy.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on the news review this morning. And we're going to be digging into the papers. We're joined by Joseph Akable. He will be popping up shortly. But also have here Mamavi Osabaje. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Love this one.
Well, thank you. You had a good weekend?
Yeah. Pretty tiring weekend. And I started doing something I was doing before COVID hit. There's a spot I go to on Saturdays and do some climbing.
Okay.
Jogging, walking, and for security reasons, I will not mention where. But those who know, know.
We hear you. It's a good thing to be exercising around this time.
Very.
Yeah. But thank you so much for joining us, for making time and choosing us. This is the AM Show, time for us to do the newspapers. Our colleague, our court correspondent, Joseph Akable, who's been busy.
There he is.
Cross-examining people at the Supreme Court Annex. Good morning, Joseph.
Good morning, Ben and Mama V.
Yeah, good morning. Hey, you know what? I was thinking, in the 2012, there were a couple of contempt issues, correct?
Yes.
Oh, I was just went down memory lane.
What are you suggesting?
No, nothing. At this trip, I haven't seen signs of anything like that. So, which is a good thing.
Well, maybe people are not commenting in an aggressive manner as they were because of the lessons from 2012, 2013. But I generally think the court is not paying attention because already some comments have been made that,
Well, aren't those comments being made right there at the courts, the premises?
Some of them, yes.
Okay, listen, let's do our business. You tell us what would happen later this morning. Of course, we know Esiedun Ketia Part 2 will be coming up. And people would love to hear what would go down. There's a video that will play, but let's get into the papers first of all. I've got the Ghanaian Times, the Finder. Maybe if time permits, 2 more papers I'll do. Joseph will do the Daily Guide, the Dispatch, and the Business and Financial Times. Ben?
Okay, so I shall do the Daily Graphic, the Custodian, and the Business and Financial Times.
Okay, so if I may, let's begin with the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Here's what's on the front page. Ghana records more COVID-19 deaths. Shisha contributing to increased death toll, attributed to KNUST. It's actually a study. A group of people carried out a study, and Shisha, that's the pipe smoking, isn't it?
Hashish, shisha, whatever name it goes under in different circumstances. But that thing was banned at a point. You remember?
It was what?
It was banned at a point.
Oh, was it banned?
Yes.
So is it still banned?
That's the question, because it was banned and people were still doing it. You know, these pubs, I remember back then in certain places in Laboni and the rest, you know, banned, but you go to certain places and see that, Charlie, people, they do their thing.
I think right now what we know is that it has not been banned because it's everywhere. So this study essentially recommends the banning of it, but it says that it makes, if you have COVID, okay, and you smoke, any type of smoking, particularly this one that they highlight, it aggravates the situation. So apart from same people probably using the same pipe and making it easy if a person has COVID and spreading it, it also aggravates the situation. So there's more with the study in the paper. Public Services Commission outlines COVID-19 guidelines for public institutions. They went along the lines of what the president said yesterday. If you can do a shift system, run a shift system. Right now, it's not optional, it's mandatory. Half-Assini police commander allegedly commits suicide. And I like the way the Ghanaian Times puts it, because a lot of the portals that reported it over the weekend did not use allegedly. It was as if they knew for sure that this is what the police commander had done. But he was essentially found dead in his room with a gunshot. The police are not ruling anything out. They say, according to the statement that they issued, that they will do an open investigation. EU decries monetization of election campaigns in Ghana. If you go to page 3, the Half-Assini police commander allegedly committing suicide, details there. Bulldog case adjourns to February 23. This is the artist manager, Nana Esiama Hansen, who was arrested for threatening the president. The comments he made on a television program is here, quote unquote, the president will not finish his tenure and that he will run away if he failed to pay customers of Men's Gold their deposits. So it's an ongoing case. He's been granted a bail, 70 Ghana cedis. And the court has ordered prosecution to serve him with disclosures to facilitate a case management conference. That's where we are with that matter. And then teacher of Oti Boating SHS found dead in his room. That's also a very sad, tragic one. It was his aunt who went to him essentially and then realized that door was locked, called for help. They opened and then he was found dead. Well, it was confirmed that he had died at the hospital, but apparently the auntie also disclosed that he was an epileptic patient. So they haven't investigated yet. We don't know what may have caused the death. But a sad one also to the Ghana News Agency, because they say that during the coverage of the 2020 general election, he was recruited as a volunteer. And then here's a driver who's been remanded for dealing in weed. He was just selling and the police got him. And so he's been arrested. Let's see. Center spread. Supreme Court resumes election petition hearing today. On the back page, Olistan hats. It was a Gamashi distin. And my team, oh, Charlie, 2-0 there, some way. And then, yeah, it's not like Kotoko won. They shared points with Ashgold.
It's at least better than a loss. I mean, a loss versus a loss.
Charlie, 2-0 there. 2-0 there. And it's not as painful. If it was Kotoko, like, we'll take it like that. But Charlie, this one is Oli.
What are you trying to say about Oli? Oli that day.
This is Oli. It is more painful. It is more painful with Olympics.
But it's an Accra rivalry thing. So, yeah, I mean, that's just the way it is.
Okay, guys.
All right, so I'll quickly do the daily graphic and then I'll have Akabley also come through with his papers. Cost of COVID-19 test at KIA reduced to $50. Maybe we can get the right. So there we have it, banner headline. There actually being social activities restricted. And yesterday, you know, when you hear Nanado speaking Ga, and then he goes, Hela, if be, then you know that Charlie Asemino, Ayakesi.
Yeah, he says it. And I said, no, I think the Chi version. Was it Ayahun? I said, Ayahun.
Ayahun, I think I'm saying. So, I mean, I just got some humor out of that, but nothing humorous about the rounds the virus is doing. Funerals, parties, weddings banned, shift system at workplaces. Actually, he mentioned if you don't have to go out, work. You can work virtually for those companies that can afford to do that. Churches to stick to 2-hour duration. And I'm just wondering, how could we do this show virtually? Not possible.
Oh, we could. I mean,
we could, but Charlie, the feel of it, like Charlie, you do your house.
I could work from home. I could work from just like Joseph is comfortably in his office. I could also be working from home. We should consider that.
Election petition. Supreme Court plays video on Asiedun Ketia today, so we'll be delving into those stories. I just wanted to take a look at this as well. 24, 25, those pages. Vetting of ministerial nominees commences February 10, and we know the first batch that will be going through. And then on page 28, absorb tertiary students' fees. Reverend Professor Ejapon Kodia charges government. This thing is still heating up, and on Ghana Connect this past Friday, I was interacting with some students, and it appears they still want this. But government has also, made a statement that since 2009, we've had these subsidies coming through, about 70%. And so what more do you want? COVID, yes, but how about our end? Northeast schools yet to receive PPE. This is a big worry. And that's it for the daily graphic, basically. On the back, inter-allies succumb to Legon cities. And of course, you know that Gamashi, that derby, Olympics ruled the capital with a 2-3 win.
Is that all in the headline?
Oh, yeah, it's all there. It's all in there. Akable, let's take a look at the papers you have.
I'll start from page 16 of the Daily Guide.
For diabolical reasons, I guess.
Fire burn! That's the story there. And so that's where we started the paper review from. So we can now move to the front page.
We don't even have 26 or whatever page you mentioned.
He said 16.
That can't be put on the screen.
Oh. The producer is also a House of Folk supporter. Okay, so the front page of the Daily Guide here says, Asiedun Ketia faces grilling, lawyers test witness. It's on the front page, and 15 more COVID-19 deaths recorded, also on the front page of the Daily Guide. The other story on the front page says, MPs test positive for COVID, and Clark, Asen North MP sued over speaker election, and Nana Grimoire Bene heads UMB, also on the front page of the Daily Guide. The center spread of the Daily Guide now. It has this entertainment story, Wiser Grade says I do, on the front page, and this other story about prosecution ordered to serve Bulldog with disclosures, also in the center spread. And debt stock rises to 286.9 billion. And that story about 250 million World Bank support for development bank projects. And Nana Grimoire Bene heads UMB, also in the center spread of the Daily Guide.
Joseph, you missed one story. Aren't you a court correspondent? Haven't you seen Wiser there?
I was going to ask, like, Charlie, did you just say Wiser Grade?
You want me to talk about his issues that happened?
You read the headline, eh?
He did.
Yes, I read it.
Okay, I didn't hear.
It appears Wiser, a kikino.
And I told you about page 16 as well, where the story about Olympics losing, winning.
May Fireman Songo's fire burn you.
Mischief Cube.
But let's do the Daily Dispatch quickly. The front page here says, I have not said Mahama had said he won 2020. That is according to Asiedun Ketia. 2020 parliamentary results is on page 16. And down memory lane, what Benefson said about NPP and Akufo-Addo in July 2014. Some Ghanaian MPs have tested positive for COVID-19 is from the Speaker of Parliament. And the back page has that story about some MPs testing positive for COVID-19, and the Speaker telling members to go for their test. In fact, I saw the story this morning that indicates that it said more than 60 of the MPs have refused to take their COVID-19 test.
Yep.
And so it's of concern to the Speaker of Parliament. It's not in my witness statement that Mahama told the world he won the polls, Asiedun Ketia. And that story about today in history, Akufo-Addo is currently the heartbeat of the NPP. is coming from Ben Epson. So those are the headlines for me this morning, Mama B and Ben.
All right, let me continue with the Find the newspaper. And on the front page, NPP refutes minorities' claim of not supporting relief for students. Prince Moses appointed general manager of Fasasi Radio. Asiedu Nketia runs away from his Mahama victory claim. Funerals, weddings, concert banned, but not exactly. If you can have a smaller funeral, 25, was it 25?
25.
Yes, 25, then that will be allowed. 17.6 million COVID-19 vaccines to be procured by June. Earliest vaccines will arrive in March. But as we hold on to the big funerals, the first time that we did this, people actually kept the dead bodies because they didn't want to do private funerals.
Yeah.
And then some of the morgues were getting full. I hope we don't get to that situation that people would actually do the private funerals. That's the way to go, really.
Actually, Mama V, the reality is we shall get there again.
We
love our, I don't want to use some terms, but we love all of that. And you know that is going to happen.
Yeah.
Some people will simply refuse. They don't want a small funeral.
Another bench warrant issued for arrest of notorious fraudster. GS distribute 10 million face masks, 9.9 million sanitizers to schools. But people have said that this really isn't the issue. It is the social distancing, the physical one. If you put hand sanitizer on your hands or you wear a face mask, but you don't do the physical distancing, really, what are you doing?
But even then, let's not forget, schools in Northeast are yet to receive their PPE per the Daily Graphic.
NLC directs Universities of Ghana Senior Staff Association to suspend strike. I realized that the Tewu one was talked about heavily, but this one that's been going on, I think, for a little over a week, we don't seem to be talking about it much. The Senior Staff Association at the University of Ghana. Now, the National Labour Commission says that they should go back to work. All right, that's really it for the Find the newspaper.
Okay, so I think I'll do the Business and Financial Times before I get to the custodian. Economy saddled with 286 billion CD debt, Ghana CD debt. That hits 74.4% of GDP. A merry deal to run for 3 extra months. And then, of course, we're talking about the Africa Free Trade Area will little affect tariff revenues. That's according to the World Bank. I just want to take a quick swipe at that story. In fact, 2, health workers fear sector is ill-prepared to fight pandemic. But you know what? I've read those headlines. I'll come to them. I want to do those 2 stories from the Business and Financial Times. So when we're done with the headlines, I'll get to those ones. Done for now. Akable, are you done with your set of papers?
Yes, Ben. Okay. I touched on the front pages, yes.
Right. Okay.
There's a last paper for me, the Daily Searchlight, but there's a story about extortion at Wager DVLA. So some persons, according to the paper, reported that they were, taking some monies that they were not supposed to, and because of that, they had to carry out some investigations. And they've uncovered through the investigation some high level of bribery and extortion at the Ouija branch of the Driver's Vehicle License Authority. So details of that. Just looking at for another DVLA related story, but maybe I will find it and share a bit later on. This happened in the north where some people thought that they could just go and kick out the DVLA boss there. I'll find the full story and share, but that's it for the Searchlight. There are other stories. If you're interested, you can, of course, grab the paper and read.
The Republic Press, the only story I'm going to focus on, because all the others have already been mentioned in other papers, Kaswa eats poisoned meat. And this stands out. I think they are the only paper doing this story as nation grapples with COVID-19. And it says, although cows, sheep, pigs, and other animals remain the main victims of slaughterhouse activities, it cannot be gainsaid the fact that unsuspecting meat consumers are also at the mercy of the unhygienic conditions with which these meat processing facilities operate across the country, and they link it to COVID-19. I'm just taking a swipe at it because yesterday I was listening to the BBC. You know the bit about that market, I think somewhere in Wuhan, where the virus is supposed to have started. And now the World Health Organization has said that it could have been brought from somewhere else to that place because they sell all kinds of things from bats to pangolins and and that it could have been even on cold meat or frozen meat and brought there. But we're overlooking this. Our abattoirs often are filthy for people who, purchase these things. And these are some of the ways that some of these things or illnesses, viruses, are transmitted from animals to human beings.
So that's a slaughterhouse?
Yes, that's what you're seeing. Republic. That's what you're seeing. Look at that.
Disgusting. I don't want to see it.
Look at that. And that is a problem. We suffer in this, sub-region from the Ebola and Lassa fevers.
Yucky.
Well. So that's just something I wanted to highlight. Major problem. And as we tackle COVID-19, we should look clearly at some of these matters because, Charlie, we joke, it's a very serious, matter. Very, very serious. You must also watch where you get your meat from, because you could be buying sickness, really. So that's it for me with the headlines. Shall we dig into the stories? I think we have some.
So this DVLA story, it's the Northern Regional Police Command deploying officers to guard staff of the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority in Tamale after a group of young men believed to be members of Kandahar Boys stormed the authorities' premises and demanded that the boss exits his office. Officials did not speak, and I'm reading this from City News, that the men violently stormed the premises and asked other key officers of the DVLA to immediately vacate their office. Police went there after the men had left. But this kind of impunity...
Aren't those groups supposed to have been, aren't they the kind of groups for which that law was made when it comes to political party, militias, and whatever you want to call them?
Let's ask the Peace Council now, shall we? But it's a shame that this is happening, really. This is 2021. We've come a long way.
Okay, so I'll just say this, and then, Joseph, you can come in with maybe your major story. Economy saddled with 286 billion debt. That's 74.4% of GDP. This is what it really means. I'll just make this point. It means for every 1 Ghana cedi value of productive activity undertaken in Ghana, we pay 74 pesos as debt. So how much does that leave us? 26 pesos to run, the country. Recently, we were talking about the fact that the projections by the IMF and co are pretty good moving forward, but this is another reality. How do we deal with it? Well, maybe we would have to find some of the economists and speak to them. Akabale.
Yeah, what are we looking out for today in courts?
And so the main issue has to do with the cross-examination of Mr. Esiedun Ketia. And you recall last Friday, it ended at Mr. Kotampao asking him whether he recalls that himself and other key officials of the NDC had addressed news conference where they had claimed that the party had won the election. And so it is part of their strategy to discredit Esiedun Ketia, to tell the court that, look, this is not someone that you should put much premium on his testimony. And so what they'll be doing is that the facility we provided this morning, we are expecting a screen and a sound system that allows the video to be played. As to whether or not they will seek to tender the video into evidence through Mr. Esiedun Ketia is another question that will be up for discussion depending on what direction the lawyers take. And so that is the main business for the day. We are told that in the video there is Mr. Mahama, there is also Esiedun Ketia, then there are some other party officials who are captured in the video. It's actually part of the documents that Peter McMahon, who is President Akufo-Addo's witness, submitted to the court in terms of as part of his witness statement. And so that is what they've given to the court on that issue.
All right, Joe, we will see you at the Supreme Court later this morning. We can't wait since Esiedun Ketia was trending. Would it be another trending part 2 with the National Science Center?
Yeah, I've seen the NSMQ stuff people have put.
I was about to mention that is just, I mean, punching away.
Right now, like it's impossible if anybody would be called for contempt or something of a sort with this trending one. Who started it? All right, Joe, don't say anything. Good luck to you. Joseph Akabale is our correspondent. He'll be bringing us a lot more at the Supreme Court with the election 2020 petition. We have to make way for sport. I hear there is a transfer window that will be shutting. So Reko Ampofu will be here in a little bit with details of all the action that went down over the weekend, what we should look forward to.
Including that match between Accra Great Olympics and Accra Hearts of Oak, where Hearts of Oak lost miserably. Yeah.
Is he the sports presenter now? Stay with us.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM Sports with me, Oreko Wampof. I hope you had a fantastic weekend, and the weekend, of course, did end on a presidential note as we did witness yet an address by the President of Ghana and His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo. He urged the Ghana Football Association to ensure compliance with the 25% capacity rule in our stadia in order to curb the spread of COVID-19. Now, the President made this disclosure in his update number 23 last night, and I read, the National Sports Authority and the Ghana Football Association should ensure compliance with the 25% capacity rule in our stadia with spectators respecting the social distancing and wearing of masks. Well, Nana Akufo-Addo was talking about the Ghana Premier League and some of the footages that have come out so far, with fans celebrating so aggressively and even hugging each other, and encouraging that if you do go to the stadium, do ensure you keep your social distance and be wearing your mask as well. But let's still stick with the Ghana Premier League, where we did preview some interesting derbies ahead of the weekend. And let's start by going through the first one now. That had to do with the Ashanti derby between Asante Kotoko and then Ash Gold. Unfortunately, we saw no goals in that one, but there were decent chances in that week 11 encounter against Ashanti Gold, as that match did come at the Obuasi Lenkley Stadium on Sunday. Let's now check the highlights between Asante Kotoko and Ashanti Gold.
And it's a daring run on the flank. Kotoko coming forward, down goes the player. Referee says the game should continue.
Prince, it's early days yet, but Kotoko are in the mood.
So for these regional champions, this is how identical the statistics are for them going into this match. It's going to be an even Stevens game, that's for sure. But Kotoko come forward on the opportunity for a first goal, Pami. 100 save by Bailu Mohammed. But here they have an opportunity coming forward. This is Gama. Gama is brought down in the 18-yard box. Referee says the game should continue. The fans are wild. Chance for Kotoko. Frimpong comes on. He lobs it into the 80-yard box. Gama's header. And I'm sure that the faithful of Kumasi Asante Kotoko would have rose 4-0 against Liberty Professionals here at Obuasi. It's goalless. Gama with another flamboyant style of a kick. Frimpong with a cross.
Away, it's Roland Amuzu, sends it back to Mohamed Bello, and referee Maxwell Hansen from Tema will whistle for the end of the game here at the Lenkley Stadium. It's all over here.
Well, Ashanti Derby, he did end in a 0-0 draw between the two sides, Kumasi Asante Kotoko and then Ashanti Gold. But there was a more interesting clash here in Accra concerning derbies, and that had to do with the Manchester Derby, that's the Greater Accra Derby, between Great Olympics and then Accra Heart of Oak. And for the first time in 17 years, Great Olympics have beaten Accra Heart of Oak in a Ghana Premier League game. And that was thanks to goals from Gladstone Awako and Maxwell Quay, as Olympics secured an impressive 2-0 victory over Heart of Oak in the Manchester Derby.
It's Hearts nil, Olympics no. Mudasiru. Was it a foul by Nuru Sule? You can see the outs. Yes, Patrick. Referee Bulu whistles. Awaku steps forward. There he goes. Awesome! Magnificent! Gladstone Awaku makes it 1-0 for Great Olympics. Oh my goodness! What a goal! Just fill the place. Fill the place in Awaku. Everybody thought he was going to cross it for the header, but it beats the goalkeeper in his favorite side. The curling was perfect. The precision was perfect. The weight on it was perfect. The dip, the bend over the wall, and the dip in time was world class. And the finish really is special talent we have on the local scene here in the Ghana Premier League. He sounded modest the last time we had a chat with him on the radio. Yeah. He didn't want to talk too much about this game, but he knew Olympics could pop up with something. And here they go. Ashikwe goes in with a left-footed cross to his brother, and that's the second. Maxwell Abe makes it 2 for Great Olympics. If Awaku's goal was better, then this one is simply fantastic. What a magnificent hit that was. What a magnificent goal. What a game we are having. And Modasiru does well to win the ball from here. But when the ball gets to Ashikwe, he takes his time waiting for the right opportunity to pick a pass and sees his brother arriving, Maxwell Abe. And on the volley, first time of asking, hits it so hard. And once the ball takes the bounce off the top before reaching the goalkeeper, he always knew why he was going to struggle. But he needed to keep his eye and keep his body really firm and strike it well. And boy, did he strike that. Boy, did he.
Well, this fixture usually does have a little bit of feistiness to it, and that's because it's usually played to find out who the best team in Accra is and who the owners of the land are. Now, Accra Great Olympics have definitely not just shown that against Accra Heart of Oak, but a statistic this season is that they've actually beaten all 4 teams based at the Accra Sports Stadium. If you remember, there are 5 teams that share the Ghana Premier League, the Accra Sports Stadium for Ghana Premier League matches. And certainly, Olympics have beaten all 4 that they've met there. They beat Kotoko by 1-0, and then they beat Inter Allies by 2-0, and then they dismantled Legon Cities by 3-0. Then Accra Heart of Oak, of course, by 2-0. So what that means is that they've actually not conceded when facing teams at the Accra Sports Stadium. So certified and verified, Accra Great Olympics are the owners of Accra. Now let's make some perspective of all the Ghana Premier League results and look at how it has affected the standings in the Ghana Premier League table, as things certainly do stand. Kerala United go back to the top of the table, toppling Bechem United 2nd. Wafa, with their big victory, 5-0 against Liberty, means that they are now 3rd in the table. Accra Great Olympics, after victory in the Manchester Derby, climbed to 18th. Ashanti Gold, Adriana, Asante Kotoko, and Heart of Oak all drop in the table. In terms of the relegation battle, we did see King Faisal also picking up a dramatic 4-3 win against Berekum Chelsea. Now, Berekum Chelsea scored 3 goals in the first 18 minutes of that game, and King Faisal managed to score 4 goals to be able to win that game and come up from bottom of the table to 16th. Now, Legon Cities also picked up their 2nd consecutive win in the Ghana Premier League for the first time in 3 years, and that has taken them to 12 points, and they're also out of the relegation zone. Although you've seen how things do stand in terms of the teams in the Ghana Premier League table, let's now look at some individual competition as well, and that's the top scorers for this season. Diawisi Taylor, he was on target yesterday in that Nzima derby between Mediama and Karela. Karela winning 2-0 there. And then we have Lomote of Wafa, and he's on 8 goals. Kwame Pepra with the biggest jump in the top scorer race. He scored a hat-trick this weekend against Berekum Chelsea, climbing to 3rd. And then Yaya Mohammed was also on target for Ediana from the spot. He's also on 6 goals.
Let's talk COVID-19 and what it is doing to our country, what it is doing to our people, our family, our friends, people that we know, all over really. Yesterday when the president gave his address, these are some of the things that he said. 64 people have died in 2 weeks. Those critically and severely ill are now 172, over 100 persons who are critically ill right now. Average daily rates of infection now stand at 700. Active cases 5,358. Greater Accra, Central, Western, Ashanti, Eastern, Upper East, Upper West, Volta, and Northern regions are the hardest hits as they account for 94% of active cases. The UK South African variants, well, they are not just something that we're talking about, but they've been discovered and they're being transmitted within communities here in Ghana. We will be looking at the efforts because the president said government's efforts and the citizenry's efforts. We will bring all that together and, look at the effectiveness of that. But I'm going to have a conversation with a special guest. Himself, his wife, and his 2 sons battled with COVID-19 recently. Reverend Professor Adequaye Hesse is a professor of medicine, vice president, Accra College of Medicine. And we're grateful, sir, that you agreed to share your story with us. A very good morning to you. If you can unmute your microphone, sir, so we can hear you. Hello, sir. Okay, we would have to work on that. But Reverend Professor Adequaye Hesse, Professor of Medicine, I think I can hear something moving now. Hello, Reverend. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I can hear you.
Okay, great. There you are. You look good, by the way.
Well, actually, sometimes it's good to lose weight, forced or unforced. Thank you.
All right. So I read the piece in terms of what you've had to go through with your entire family after attending a birthday party for an 8-year-old. Can you share that story with us again, where you think you may have contracted COVID-19 in the first place?
Well, yes. That was the last of the grandchildren, the last grandchild's birthday for the year. And it's also part of the Christmas festivities. So it was Christmas Eve. We went to the party, and our family has been very, 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 very careful. So very careful. We advocate and we correct people on the streets, wherever. Indeed, if we're to buy something by the roadside and they were not wearing any mask, we would just drive away, and so on and so forth. So that day, that evening, we had a little debate and asked ourselves whether it was worth going to this party at all. But then the social pressure of what the little child will think, his parents, her parents, and so on and so forth. So, okay, we masked up as we always do. And if you come to our house, we have tens of masks in the house, all different types. We keep on ordering different, so we have a lot of masks. So we masked up, we're very careful. When there, the aim was that we stay for a short while. And we went, it was an open air rooftop near the beach, good breeze party. And the funny thing was that we went and we met these young nephews, in-laws, and so on and so forth, no masking, but we were masked. And we come from a compound house. So all of us in the compound house, we keep to ourselves. And so at the party, we kept to ourselves, all of us in the compound house. Then it came to eating. And that is where we can't eat and drink without masking. So that was it. For the 30 minutes or so, and just about that time too, close relative, elderly. So they joined our table, our household table. They joined our table. And that was it. For that minutes of eating and talking and enjoying ourselves, supposedly. Unfortunately, unknown to us and unknown to all of us, that is all involved. The other, let's say, others from our bubble had had a birthday party or a party before, and unfortunately, one of that party had been infected. So after this party, after Christmas, indeed we had another party at home, but we're more careful with that. It was really close. Anyway, then we got to hear that, Ashimasi had tested positive, and some of us who had been to this other party were going to test. And they tested and they were positive. And then 2 days later, we also started having symptoms.
So did you test? Did you test positive before the symptoms started showing?
No, we didn't test at all. It was only after they had tested and they were waiting for the results. And then I particularly started feeling the flu-like sickness, flu-like malaria, like anything else you get. You get, body pains, a bit of headache, not feeling good, and then later on the sweat and actually fever. Africans, our fever is breaking up in sweat. Our mechanism of temperature control is better than others, unless it's, sick. So you break up in sweat, and then your skin is cold because you got sweat on your skin. So you feel hot, but your skin is cold, and because you're sweating. Anyway.
So at this point, did you think it was COVID?
Oh, I mean, with the history of the contact that we had, so all of us in this household, there were 12 of us. We trooped, including the baby, we all trooped to the testing center, and we all had the test except the little baby. All of us had the test. Indeed, the following day when we got the results, mine was negative. But the following day I was even more unwell than the day of the test. So a day after, I trooped back to the test center and I saw the boss and I said, "Look, boss, I'm a doctor. I know I'm sick. I've got a good contact, and your test said was negative. But in the testing, I realized that the tester was talking, so the attention and this swab did not get to where it should have gotten. So please test me again." And that was done. And then I was positive. And from there on, it went downhill in terms of wellness.
When I was reading that piece about what you went through, it's a bit about yourself, your wife, and your 2 sons, and the fact that you were at the UGMC. One of your sons was at the East Medical Center. So this is your entire family, all of you battling with the same disease, really?
Yes. As it so happened, these 2 sons, the younger one, he had been a bit symptomatic, a little muscle pain, but by the time the results came, he was okay, and he's been okay. The older son, after I had been admitted, he also got worse, and we had to my wife had to arrange for his admission. Yes, that was it. So the younger you are, what my first okay, my second son's 2 children also were affected with him. And but the 2 children, it's just like having a little fly touch you and you, I don't know.
So they got better quickly. They didn't even get sick.
They didn't even get really sick. But that's see, the younger you are, the more resilient you are, and the more you're able to bounce back if you got sick. But let's talk about our children in the 40s, yeah, and 30s. So they got sick. They got COVID. And when I was admitted, I met people 40s and 50s and some, I think, early 70s also.
You describe this disease as evil. I'm sure it's the place where it took you. Can you help us understand what you went through even at the UGMC?
Yeah. I had so many operations, and I've gone to ICU after the operation. So staying in ICU is nothing new. But the feeling this time of Bible says, later on I understood 2 things in the Bible. 1, anyone sick, call the elders. I couldn't do anything for myself. I couldn't think, I couldn't pray, I just could not do anything. And I saw myself as different from my thought mind. Saw me in like 2 people and you know, let me give you an example. I'm lying down, the nurse comes and said, Prof, here are your medicines. Would you like to take them now? And here's your breakfast. Would you like to take them now? So I just didn't want to be disturbed. So I said, just give me a few minutes. So I knew how to take my medicines. I knew how to have my breakfast first. And I just laid there. Then I slept. Woke up lunchtime. My medicines were there. And later on, the word came and said, I am in you both to will and to work for his good pleasure. To will to do anything was not there. To desire water, to desire food, to desire to urinate, to desire anything at all, flat, nothing. So you just there, and you want to do something, you imagine it's in your thoughts, but it's a different person who has to do that thing. It's just lying there. That's what I mean by it's evil. And it's evil too in that all you have to do is share air, and it's important. When we are close, we share air, and this rooftop breeze by the sea, all we did was share air with the other couple. That's all we did. And then we got a sniff at all 3 of us who, from this household, 3 of us got that from that table. Table that normally would sit 6 people or maybe more. That's all we did. That's what I mean by it's evil.
Yeah. And you needed oxygen to survive at some points.
Yes. At home, we did the oxygen saturation, and indeed that's the reason for going to hospital. We found that the hospital saturation was below what normal. It was normal to start with. So in a hospital, they were monitoring my oxygen saturation, and there were times that I was not breathless, but the oxygen saturation was low. And so it started from low oxygen and went to a higher oxygen level and even higher oxygen level for some time. Yeah.
So how long did it take you to get better?
You know something? I'm still not better in that sense. I'm not really back to my normal self. So in that sense, I'm not back. It took, frankly, I went to hospital thinking all I'm going to have is 3 days of IV fluid, so I wasn't drinking, and so on and so forth. And by the weekend, I'll be back, and it lasted about a week. And frankly, all those days are blur. It didn't matter whether it was, of course, when you're ICU, you don't see outside. So the days come and go, and it's all light. Indeed, at night the lights are all on. So it's like being a modern day chicken coop. The lights are on all the time, so you don't know day from night. But so frankly, how the days passed, I don't know. And I still don't know. Frankly, I have to think how many days I spent in hospital. Definitely it was about a week plus.
What was your support? I mean, is there anything like inspiration at that particular point in time? What was holding you together?
That does keep you in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because you trust in him. In the first few days, I trust God would, it's like a mist that you remember. But then as days went by, trusting God, prayers from friends and family and church members and so forth. Yes.
Did you imagine at the time what your wife was going through?
I couldn't even think for myself, let alone others. I mean, the days, the evening when my wife was frantically looking for admission for a son who lived not in the same compound as us. Later on, I got to know how she suffered, and I mean, it's a lot. Had to go through a lot. I think probably we ought to look at that as health, as Ghana Health Service, as Minister of Health, because even doctors don't know how to assess the system for treatment.
You must be happy following your own situation, the kind of measures put in place, because you really were for the recommendations, the direction that the Ghana Medical Association was given. And then yesterday, in the president's address, he did ban some public activities. That must be good news to you.
Oh yes, these are not rocket science things. And if you see a plane going up, you don't need to see the plane. How should we say? You don't need to see the plane going 100 feet when from 10 feet you can see the projector. So really, 2 weeks too late, but never too late for this.
The thing about what I read from you that got me thinking a bit again. After the party, now you're thinking, I could have avoided the party. I mean, what was the point? Because the children were not even interacting with us. Adults.
Yeah, they are bouncing all over. They're all over the place, and you really have to call even the birthday girl to let you know that, so there are certain funerals you go, not because really you're going to the funeral, but you feel obligated to those who are mourning. So you go and show yourself to be seen that you have come to join them in mourning. That's social pressure that you feel on you. But meanwhile, so long as they have their own friends and little ones, they were all over, up and down, and all over the place. And yes, we also went and we cuddled in our nice little bubble. And so, I mean, that we do often in our compound house. So, what is the big deal? And that is a real social distancing that we should look at. Yes, when you come close, you physically distance. But to go to parties, to go to congregations, to go to funerals, to go to places where your bubble will be best, that is a social distancing we are talking about. We can socially interact as I'm doing with you, on Zoom, on telephone, WhatsApp, as we do on schoolmates platform and so forth. That is, we are socializing. But to physically go and socialize, it's that, and socialize, including work. One person infecting 500 people in that closed environment, sharing the same environment, that is not necessary. So I'm happy that they have been banned, and really we shall return back to the first measures we took when we were frightened, and we still should be frightened because hundreds are dying. Now, at the beginning, there were 1, 2, 3, you could count. Now, it's community. The community is spread, and not only Accra, Kumasi. When I was going to the hospital, it was Accra, Takoradi, and Kumasi. Now, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, it's the whole country. It's fire. Let not it burn in your house before you feel that the heat. We should see the heat. If you see somebody's house burning, you don't feel the heat, but you can see the flames. That is heat enough for you as a country, as people, as individuals, that we should do. Frankly, if now you come to my house, you sit outside. You mask. You don't enter my gate without masking. You mask, and we all mask indoors. And as soon as anybody is bursting our bubble, we all mask in the house.
So what do you do with yourself these days? Is there a personal restriction on yourself, so you're home the whole time?
I'm home the whole time. I've had to go out twice, or maybe 3 times. So I saw the doctor, so I had that. But masking, I'm home all the whole time. Like I said, I see people outside. The house is nice and shady, where we can talk, and so on and so forth. But masking, nobody comes in our gate without masking. None of us goes out without masking, and so on and so forth. And I wish that, trotros, fair enough, a lot of the times people sitting in trotros don't talk because it's talking. But I see some trotros, the windows are so small. I wonder if we should look at those things. Before then, I haven't been to church for all the while. That is from Christmas time. I haven't been to church. But when I go to church, when I used to go to church, I mask and shield. Mask and shield. And church arrangements, very fine. No, you keep a distance. Keep your distance, you talk, and so on and so forth. Fair enough. But there are certain churches I went to, and this was pre-Christmas. Now our church is strict. But I went, those who use microphones in church, or you journalists, it pains my heart to see a journalist masked or unmasked, interviewing people in the streets without mask. You are not only spreading or exposing yourself as journalists and exposing yourself to those unmasked people, But importantly, you are perpetuating the culture of being unmasked in public. You ought to stop it. Now, microphones, before, I always had, I catch sore throats easily. And as an osofo, you go places where you have to share microphones. Every Sunday when I go and do the, share microphones, when I come home, I have a sore throat. So I realized that from experience, and then I looked at it. Let me ask you to do this experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Take the foam from a microphone after it's being used, squeeze it. See how much saliva comes out of it. And so we spit when we talk. We spit into the microphone, and then we give to somebody else, and that person inhales from the foam. It's so close to you. When you are talking, you're taking a deep breath, either through your nose or often when you're talking, the deep breath is through your mouth. So you inhale somebody's spit, saliva, and so I'm not surprised that journalists have a high incidence of COVID because stop sharing microphones. Don't you yourself, don't use the same microphone that your interview is using. So our church, we don't share microphones, and that ought to be. So I have a lapel microphone, and everyone, or when you share microphones, you use a spray. Spray the microphone, sanitize it, or everybody has his own foam. When you're given a microphone, you change the foam. You take yours, and so on and so forth. But we ought to be more careful about close contact and so on and so forth. So now, I'm an advocate.
Yes, Prof.
I've been there, and I'm back.
Yes.
Thanks be to God. And
hallelujah.
Of course, thanks be to the nurses. Oh, I discovered a proper Nightingale nurse. Let me doff my hat to her. She's really, she's not Florence, but she's a Nightingale. Really, I mean.
Do you remember her name?
I have to think. Yes, I remember her name is Joanna.
Okay.
Only because I associated with my sister who's called Joanna. So I said, no, this is a Hesse name. So I remember and I'm looking forward to hugging her when all this thing is over. Because, Johnny. Now I'm being told it's not Joanna, but it's Johnny. So now, that's the thing. My mental ability to think and solve problems or make plans is still not back to normal. So when I'm asked, I'm on sick leave. So you just go and think about it and come and tell me what your thoughts are, and I'll say yes or no. But please don't give me too much, work to do, thinking. Sure, if I were a student doing algebra and things like that, I'm sure I'll do bad because I'm.
Wow.
The other thing is still having some of the respiratory shortness of breath. I climbed a flight of stairs. Wow, I was like. I've been running for miles.
Well, Prof, we really appreciate your sharing your personal fight with COVID-19 with us. Really, really thankful also for the advice, the tips that you give. We're thankful for your life, and we know that you will fully recover in the shortest possible time. So our prayers with you, Prof.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you for the prayers. It's real, it's real. It's real. You don't let it get to you before you wake up to the reality. It is real. People are dying. People are sick. And this time, they are properly sick. This time, And it's not the old versus the young. It's not the diabetic versus yes, I've got hypertension, but it's controlled. and it's been controlled throughout. So it's not that. You know, my young ones, they're not that young, but they're healthy. So, and my grandchildren healthy. So please, it's not the rich, not the poor, and it's been shown. Research has shown. Please go to biochemistry department, Legon. Research has shown marketplaces have got a higher prevalence of antibodies. They've been more exposed. Market and trotro stations, and those ones we have not targeted in our restrictions yet. And they found the bulk of the people who go outside. So,
well,
to us.
Thank you for the caution. We wish you speedy recovery. That's Reverend Professor Adukwe Hesse. That's a professor of medicine. He says he described it as being a very evil disease. He's been there and back. We thank God for his life. Let's have a conversation with Professor Alfred Yorsing. He's head community health, University of Ghana Medical School. Prof, a very good morning to you. I'm sure you had the tail end of my conversation with Professor Adukwe Hesse, who's recently battled with COVID-19. I'm not sure how much of that you heard. If you want to comment on that before we come to the other matters.
Yes, thank you very much. I must say I did. And Prof. Hesse happens to be my teacher and one of my mentors. So it's so good to see him back and healthy. We thank God for the experiences he's sharing. And I think it's very good to hear from people like that who have been there, who are medics, and who know what to do. So we thank him for their contribution and the education to the public.
Yeah. I have one little assignment, though. I mean, I don't have the capacity to assign you. But if you can look for Auntie Janice at the UGMC for us, so we can all say thank you to her for taking care of Prof when he was there at the facility. That would be good.
I can do that.
Thank you so much. But Prof. Yorsing, I wanted us to go through the kind of measures that government has put in place now. We're returning back to no big funerals, do a private one, no weddings, no parties. The beaches apparently are still closed. But you know that some of the things that we were told were closed, were banned. People were still doing those same things. So how confident are you in these measures announced by the president yesterday?
Yes, no matter how little, it's important. And I think it's very good we are taking such steps to limit gatherings, public meetings, and all that. It is very important. It's always been the enforcement of the laws and the regulations. And as you said, people flout these ones. And we will hope that this time the education will go down well, that people will take responsibility for their actions, as well as encouraging the security agencies to be more forthright and ensure that things are done right. Because the way or the trajectory on which we are, it's not something we can joke with. We really need everybody's effort on board. And if during the first phase we were not able to do some things, we have no excuse to fail at this time when we are facing such a tough enemy or an evil disease, as Prof put it. We need to encourage every person in authority to be able to support these ones. And as we said, the measures are good, but they are not all encompassing and all embracing. There are still some areas that we seriously need to look at. Marketplaces and our public transportation systems. We really need to empower the drivers, the transport union, to be able to take action and sanction passengers who probably want to get on board your vehicle and are not wearing masks. You should be able to get these people off your vehicle. We need to encourage these groups and individuals to be able to support us in all they do. One thing we must know as a country, and we should, as parents, as guardians, It's our actions at this time that is going to protect our children who are in school. If we fail ourselves, then we are terribly going to fail our children too. And that is not good enough.
But Prof, how do you convince market women who say to us openly that we have not been wearing the mask, but we're fine? We don't know anybody around us who has suffered from this disease that you talk about. I mean, we take our microphones there and that's what they tell us all the time. How do you change the minds of these people?
Yes, it's difficult. I say initially, in the initial phase of the pandemic, we were battling with stigma. With time, stigma has gone down, and now we are having the problem of continued denial of the existence of the disease. That's a major public health challenge, and that's what you are saying. It's true. We need to continue the risk communication. We, like Prof. Hesse did, we need to continue to convince and use facts, information, and available evidence to let them know that indeed this disease is there. So that is what we can do, and we appreciate what the media do in this regard by continually educating the public, letting people know, and sometimes the visit you make to the treatment centers and seeing people on ventilators. In fact, the situation now it's dire, and we should let everybody understand that that is what it is. People are sick, and in fact, they are really sick. And as many more people get sick and require critical care support in our health facility, and we cannot give all of these because we don't have the capacity, that's when our mortality will rise. And in fact, in the last 2 weeks, we've lost 64 persons. That is the official data. And when the pandemic started, you can imagine how long it took us to get to 64 people that compared to the last 2 weeks. And we cannot go on like this.
You know, we live in the community, so what should we be doing? If there are people, so for instance, if you went to a hair salon and not everybody is wearing the mask, but you're doing it, are you still protected if you go into a place where people are disregarding the protocols, but you are abiding? Are you still safe?
What we always say is we cannot eliminate the risk. It is risk limitation. You can limit it, but you cannot completely eliminate the risk. So if you are in masks and others are not, you are still at risk. Especially depending on the type of mask you are wearing. If you are wearing cloth masks, you are wearing a surgical mask, and then you are in an enclosed place with others not wearing masks, and there is a high density of risk, you are also at risk. That is why it is good for all of us to encourage everybody else to be in masks. In that case, we limit the risk as much as possible. So it is important. In such situations, we need to continue to engage, encourage people, and then probably empower the owner of the saloon to be forthright and insist that people wear masks before they get in. Barbering shops, supermarkets, those enclosed areas, we need to let people call you names, but let's try and do the right things. Let's still encourage. You can just walk straight to the manager or the person on duty and let them know that things are not right here, and we need to protect one and each other.
Another thing, Prof, if I've taken the COVID tests and I don't have my results, which is what some people complain about, especially when they go into a public facility where the test is free. Some people with the excuse that, I don't have my results, which means I don't know if I have COVID or not. So back to normal, I am doing what I normally would do. How can we protect ourselves against persons like that? Because we would not know that they've even gone to take a test.
Yes. So that's why the universal precaution measures is important. We really need to see everybody else as potentially having COVID, and then you protect yourself. If we go along that line, that everybody else is potentially a COVID patient and can transmit to me, I need to protect myself. It is an important measure to take on the personal level. And for those who get tested, it is for a reason that you went to test. You were suspected, you had some symptoms, or you think you have been exposed. As much as possible, for the sake of yourself, the sake of your family, the sake of your co-workers and everybody else, even when you have tested and you haven't received your result, as much as possible, if you can self-quarantine, try and avoid the things you will normally do. If you can work from home, you need to be candid about this and let your employers or whoever you are working with know that this is what I have. I haven't received my test, and so I'm not very confident what my status is, and would like to work from home as much as possible, would not want to engage in some of the things that will put other people at risk. We all need to be responsible and accountable in these difficult times. The fact that you've tested, you've not got the result, it's just 50-50 chances. You can be positive, you can be negative. And if you claim you are negative and it comes and you are positive, you have exposed so many others to the disease, and that's not fair to everybody else and to yourself.
Prof, the last bit of this conversation, I want us to talk about our children. They're still in school. Are there practical steps, any tips that you can give to us parents so that, you know, what do you do when you pick up your child from school until you get home? What should you immediately do?
Great. The children being in school, as we always say, is an essential component of our socio-economic development, and we need to take every action to get them to stay in school and safely. Once you pick your child from school, we will encourage that the child is not only going to school that they wash their hands. When they are leaving school, they still need to wash their hands, put on their masks before they get into the car, or however you are transporting them home. We need to do that. And as soon as they get home, what is advisable is that you need not to allow them to enter the room or the house directly. You can get them to remove their school clothes, get them to wash their hands again, and then straight away they go to the bathroom. They get washed down, and if it's possible, you can even let them brush their teeth. These are all measures that are important. Then you get them to settle at home, you feed them properly. These are practical measures we can take so that they just don't walk straight into the house with their school uniform, remove them, throw them around. No, we should have proper ways of dealing with it. And ideally, we can wash their clothing every day they come back from school. Yeah.
Okay.
So that we wash, dry them, hang them in the sun, and then iron it for them the next time they will use it.
Okay.
And then those of us with helpers at home, we need to equally educate the helpers, because you might not be there. You only get home in the evening. So everything that we have said will be done or will be undertaken by the helpers. And we need to continually engage them. We should understand that their level may not be as ours. So we need to continually guide them as to what to do as parents and as guardians.
Okay, great. Just the very last bit, how about the boosters? Is it daily? I mean, should you continue to do it, or there are side effects? For the children, I mean.
I didn't get that, please.
Okay, so I was referring to the boosters, you know, the vitamin C and the other things that we give them to boost their immune system.
Oh, those ones, vitamin C, for example, is safe. And it's water-based, it passes through the urine, and therefore the children can take them. It's quite safe. But we should protect them, we should prevent doing other things, getting them to inhale substances and all that. For children, what we need to get them to do is to get them adequate sleep, get them healthy diet to eat, and get them active, exercising and all that. Then we can boost with the vitamin C's and others. But we should be careful what other medicines we give them. It is becoming increasingly clear that people are abusing antibiotics, especially the azithromycin that we use. This is a very useful antibiotic. It should be sold only under prescription. Unfortunately, there are always gaps in the system, and people are doing all kinds of concoction, cocktails, combination of medication, and it's not helping our cause. So we need to educate the public on this as well.
Well, Prof, thank you so much for your time. We'll leave it here, but I know that we'll have plenty of conversations in the future. Thank you for the tips. I didn't know about the brushing for the children and the daily washing of, the uniforms that they take to school. So thank you for the great tips.
It's important, yes. It helps.
Right. Okay. Thank you, sir. And that's our conversation really on COVID. I mean, the rest of it is for us to do. I mean, you've heard so many stories being shared. You know that COVID is real. Please take care of yourself and take care of the next person by you. Up next, we're talking fighting child slavery. And there's a song that will be launched on the show today. You've got to stay for it.
Welcome back on the AM show, and we're talking something crucial. Yes, COVID-19 has come, it's made its impact, but have you ever thought about what exactly child slavery does? The International Justice Mission is here, and we're hosting Emmanuel Kanga, aftercare specialist with the IJM, Leo Akon, Director, Advocacy and Partnerships with the IJM, because this, like I mentioned, is a very, very important matter. Guess what the statistics say? About 21% of children aged between 5 and 17 are engaged in some form of child slavery, and 14% of them in hazardous forms of child labor. That's why this morning we have this conversation, and I'd like to say a very good morning to Leo and, of course, Emmanuel. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben.
Great. So how did we even end up here having this conversation? You've been doing a lot of work over the years. So, Shalom, I'll start with you. Tell us a bit about the realities when it comes to child slavery in Ghana, and what urged you to embark on this mission?
Yeah, so the problem of child trafficking has been in our country for decades, for years. And we started seeing the gravity of that right after the Akosombo Dam was actually constructed. That whole area used to be a forest, and then it was converted into a dam to provide source of power supply to the Akosombo Dam. And since then, a lot of people migrated, especially fishermen migrated into that part of the country and then started fishing. And in the course of time, they started engaging children in their fishing expedition because it's seen as a very cheap labor to engage children. And so many people come to the coastal areas and then take children. Many a time, they pay for these children and then take them to the lake and then engage them in the exploitative labor where these children are used for fishing on the water. Like some of these children are as young as 4 years. And sometimes they buy these children for as low as 300 Ghana cedis, 400 Ghana cedis, and they take these children away from their parents and then exploit them on the water lake. So it's been in the system for years, but I mean, we are grateful for the work that the law enforcement agencies are doing to combat this, and we are here to support them to address this problem in this country. We are grateful for effort being done so far.
So your role basically is a supportive one. Of course, there is the law, the Children's Act, for example, 1998, the 2004 edition. And recently I saw what the ILO, the International Labour Organization, came out with in 2016. All of these pointing to the fact that children must not be exploited in certain ways. They are not slaves. In fact, when you look at the 1998 Act, sections 12 and 13, focus on that. But essentially, who is a child?
Well, according to the Children's Act of Ghana, it says that a child is anybody below the age of 18 years. And a child is meant to be in school. A child is meant to experience leisure. A child is meant to play. A child is meant to have fun. A child is meant to grow and become whoever God has destined he or she to be. And so it's not worth it to allow a 4-year-old child to go on the lake and be exploited, because these children are denied of health care many a time. These children do not go to school at all. And sometimes people say that, well, it's part of our culture. We all grew up working with our parents, or we all grew up working with an uncle and all that. But this is completely different. Now, imagine you as an adult, your child is taken away from you. You are given an amount of money, perhaps, and the child is taken to the lake. and the child doesn't get enough sleep, the child doesn't get balanced diet, the child is beaten, the child stands the risk of drowning on the lake because many of these children do not know how to swim when they are being taken there. So it's very exploitative.
That's where the hazardous nature.
Yeah, that's where the hazardous labor. And I say that our culture is much more beautiful than exploiting a child on the lake. And so it's not part of our culture that children should be enslaved on the lake, or somebody should go elsewhere and take someone's child under the guise of the person is poor. And poverty is not a justification to enslave a child, you know. So our country and our laws frowns upon it, and that's why we passed the Human Trafficking Act. That's why the Children's Act is there. That's why the government set up, the Ghana Police set up the Anti-Human Trafficking Unit of the Ghana Police Service. So really, it's a problem that exists, and government is doing its best to tackle it, and we are here to support government make that happen.
All right, so that push there, we're joined by the IJM, and of course, they are supporting government to end, trafficking, child slavery. Let's not forget the sexually exploitative angle of it, because that's also there. But let me come to you, Emmanuel. What exactly is the nature of this trafficking, especially here in Ghana, from what the IJM has seen over the years?
So what happens is most of these children who are trafficked are deceived, they are abused, they are physically abused, they are beaten, they are emotionally abused, most of them are insulted, they are made to feel less of themselves, they are made to feel like they do not count, they do not matter. And these have lasting effects on the well-being of the child. Such children would require a lot of counseling, a lot of therapy to be able to recover from the trauma that they have experienced. Most of them also come face to face with near-death experiences. Even for us as adults, imagine the toll it takes on us when we come face to face with death or lose a loved one. So imagine how much more it would take a toll on a child. Some as young as about 4, 5, 6 years, removed from their families, not allowed to grow up with the family as required by the law, the Children's Act, being denied the right to parental care, being discriminated against, feeling not worthy of even being alive. These children go through a lot of these trauma and it affects them.
So that in itself is very disturbing because like you said, even as an adult, when you come and you have your faculties properly developed and all of that, imagine what that is. I mean, if you've had an incident where you've been close to having a vehicular accident, for example, it's a close shave. Look at how you feel. How much more a child who doesn't really understand what's going on. But what are some of these experiences that you can actually share with us? Apart from, I know on the Volta Lake, yes, sometimes they drown and all of that. What are some of the experiences you can share?
I'd like to share the story of Esther. Esther was trafficked when she was about 4 years. And she worked on the lake for close to 10 years before she was rescued. Now, when they are on the lake, mostly boys go on the actual lake to help cast the nets, to pull the nets, to sort the fish out and all, to paddle the boat, to scoop water from the boat and all that. And the girls usually collect the fish when the boys are back from the lake. They sort, they smoke, they sell. In Esther's case, when she got to the master's place, there were not many boys. So at that tender age, she was engaged in actual fishing, doing everything the boys did. And then when she returned home, she would do everything else the girls also did. She did this for close to 8 years until other boys were also trafficked and she was relieved from going on the lake. Such a child is really troubled. And a lot of these experiences of such children takes such a toll on them that they are traumatized for most of their adult life if interventions are not put in place. In Esther's case, when she was rescued, she was really excited about the rescue. She was happy that much of the experience that she had on the lake, she had been relieved from it, and she was enjoying freedom. Freedom from abuse, freedom from cold nights on the lake, freedom from poor diet on the lake, freedom from being beaten by her master and her mistress. Esther was deceived before she was trafficked. She was told that she was going to be enrolled in school. she was told that she would only help to sell in a shop after school. But when they got to the lake, the story was different. And this is quite the same for almost every child who is trafficked.
This is stark. It's worrying. And you see a certain pattern when it comes to trafficking, because spreading it across, or stretching it a bit to even those who are taken to the Gulf regions and across the world, you would see a similar pattern. You're told you're going to do one thing, you end up being forced to do another thing. Sometimes your passport is confiscated, and then you are simply in a mess. But here we're talking about children. After rescue, what is the state of the children?
At the point of rescue, the children are very confused. They do not trust, because their trust has been broken from the very beginning. At the point of rescue, sometimes it's even re-traumatizing for them, because it feels like the time when they were being trafficked to go and work. What we do in collaboration with the Department of Social Welfare at the point of rescue is to provide what we call crisis care to these children, to help keep them calm, to reassure them that they are being moved from a place of abuse to a place of safety. Once we build this rapport with the children, we place them in a temporal care, and their needs are assessed to know a lot more about them, their families, where they are coming from, exactly what they did on the lake, to also help us to identify what particular needs they have, their physical needs, their emotional needs, their health needs. All these things are inquired of the children through a trauma-informed discussion. Now, once these are completed, we're able to draft what we call a care plan for the children to be able to provide services that would help them to recover from the trauma and to live regular lives again. In the shelter where they are placed for temporary care, they receive every single care that they need in terms of their health, in terms of their feeding, in terms of clothing, in terms of education. While they are in the shelter, we still partner with DSW to trace their families, to assess their homes, if their homes are safe for their return, to also work with the families to prepare them for the return of the child. We also work with the child to prepare them for return to their families. In situations where the family would require some support, be it psychosocial, be it educational, we provide all these services to these families before the children are returned. Because in any case, we do not want a situation where the children are at risk of being re-trafficked. So while we work on building the capacities of the children, we also work on building the capacities of these families to welcome the child, and the child ends up growing up within the family.
Right. Let me come to you, Shalom.
Leo.
Yes, Leo. How easy is it to reintegrate these children? Because I'm thinking, they've not been to school for a while, they've not engaged other children. I mean, some of them as little as 4 years, they've not engaged other children in playing and all of that. There's a bit of a seclusion. They are not what you would normally see in a child. How do you reintegrate them to ensure that educationally and otherwise they fit in again?
Yeah. So before the kids are actually reintegrated, like Ima was explaining, they go through a very thorough recovery program at the care home, and the social workers, Department of Social Welfare, together with Ima and his team and renowned psychologists, work closely with these children and help them to recover psychologically as well. And then the team actually locates the original route, the original place where the children were trafficked, where they can locate their families and then do an assessment just to be sure that these children and their families are willing to embrace these children so that they can provide the best care for them, so that they don't feel secluded, they don't feel ashamed, they don't feel stigmatized and all that. So it's very challenging, but it takes a whole lot of process to arrive at that destination.
Right.
Where, there has to be a family tracing, the family would have to be engaged, the children themselves have to be psychologically prepared to be returned back home so that they can fit into their home. And not just even the families alone, but even sometimes the communities are also prepared to embrace and receive these children so that they can provide support.
Is it always possible to do that? I'm assuming at some point you may hit a dead end with some of them. You try, you can't find any relations and all of that. What happens in those cases?
So usually in those cases, the Department of Social Welfare works with the care home to place these children in a long-term period where these children stay in this care home for a longer period until a family is identified, and then these children will be placed in the family. The best care to provide for a child is within the family setup and not in a shelter or not in a care home. So the Department of Social Welfare always goes every length to locate the family, but if they can't find them, they stay in the care home for a longer period. So that's the procedure, that's the process.
Well, sometimes when gauging impact, you look at numbers.
Yeah.
Let's play the numbers game. Last year, about 50, of these children who were enslaved, so to speak, that you assisted to, rescue.
Yeah.
Since 2015, what do the numbers look like? What is the impact you've been making as the IGM?
Yeah, I think since 2015, we've been able to support the Ghana Police Service and the government of Ghana to rescue close to 400 children. Since 2015, we are around 365 thereabout. But we've been able to support government to rescue these number of children since 2016. And let me add that these children are precious. They are not just precious to the state, but they are also very precious to God. And all of us must see something, say something, because it's not worth to go to a family and then buy a child worth 100 cedis. I mean, a child's life is worth more than 100 cedis.
A human being is invaluable. You can't put a value on a human being.
So it doesn't make sense. It's not justifiable to say the families are poor or to say that, well, these people are poor, and so it's okay to exchange their child's life for 100 cedis. It's not worth it when somebody can just go to a restaurant and buy a meal worth 100 cedis. So for me, I tell people that see something, say, let's report these cases to the police. Once we see them in our community, let's report them to the police. And as parents, I encourage parents to not justify their current condition to sell off the future of their children.
Now that you mentioned this, the justicial system, if you like, what happens to these families, especially when they are found to have aided the trafficking? In fact, we know that in some cases, a parent or even some other people sell off the children. What happens?
Yeah, so they are also prosecuted. If they are culpable, they are prosecuted together with the perpetrators. And we work closely with state attorneys. And just this year alone, at the beginning of this year, some culprits or some suspects were actually prosecuted. So the state attorneys or the Attorney General's department is working very closely with other law enforcement agencies to prosecute these perpetrators. And we believe that the deterrent effect is really important. And let me just share this brief story where in a community where children were taken from, these suspects were arrested and they were prosecuted, they were sentenced. And in that community, news went viral that these people had been prosecuted. And many people started taking their children back to school because they realized that, well, the laws of Ghana is being enforced, and so you can't take a child's life for granted. And so we believe that enforcing the law is also critical, and everyone must support in enforcing the laws. And that's one of the surest way of ending this canker.
So let me just say that if you've been involved in this kind of activity, you may have got away for a long time, but the long arms of the law will someday find you, and when you're found out, you'll be prosecuted, and you'll end up in a not so nice place. You don't want to do that. Let me come back to you, Emmanuel. Now, wrapping up on the testimonies, the before and after story. Share some of these with us. You've spoken to us about Esther. I saw on our screens the bit about Gideon. I think, what are the testimonies some of these children have to share?
The testimonies are very satisfying, especially for me as a social worker, where you see the children at the point of rescue and when they are ready for reintegration. There were some clients who were rescued. At the point of rescue, they were deceived to go and hide and a whole lot of other challenges. After they were placed in a shelter, they did not trust anyone. They were just difficult to manage. Within a space of about a month, when they had built trust and really realized that they were in a place of safety, these children became children again. They were very happy. They are able to go to school. They are able to pursue their education. They are able to pursue their passions. We have stories of clients who have gone through this situation without any education, but have now been able to complete JHS and are waiting to enter the senior high school. We have testimonies of children who were in the situation of trafficking, but are now enrolled in vocational training schools. We have testimonies of children who could not even speak a word in English, but within a space of about 3 months, they are able to communicate fluently in English, and they are children again, enjoying lives as children. The testimonies are just marvelous.
Well, that's the beauty of it, and that's why we have the Justice Song, because every child deserves to enjoy their childhood. We're going to have a live performance now of the Justice Song, written by Shalom and Kane Christie of blessed memory, all the way back from 2017. That is up next, and then we'll talk a bit about the video and some 90 people, did you say? From 33 countries.
Yeah.
That's amazing.